social enterprise show. On the mic with Mike King Biz, delivering food for thought. To find out more about the dynamic host of On the Mic with Mike, please visit his website at mikekingbiz.com.
Mike King isn't a businessman, he's a businessman with his own talk show. On the Mic with Mike is the best business radio program in the game.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back on the Mic with Mike King here. This is part of the Mike King Biz Media Network, ESPN Richmond 106.1, International Business Group Radio, Saturdays 10 a.m. Eastern, as well as CW Richmond TV. That is Wednesday and Friday. Coming to you from the Mike King Biz Studio, where we deal with helping, showcasing business can help society be better. That's what we do. Alrighty, so we let the light on, and family came back after a while. You know, what they had done before, you guys are Emmy winning.
Yes.
You know, are you a cinematographer?
I'm a producer.
You're a producer.
I am a producer.
Okay, but that's was that a previous life? Because now you're not a farmer, really. Or kind of, sort of.
I am, and I am.
Okay, you are a farmer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Straight out of Brooklyn.
I almost straight out of Brooklyn.
Yes.
Yes.
Become a farmer.
Yes.
Yes.
That's part of the story.
Totally goes together.
Yes.
It's particularly, Brooklyn, Bay Ridge, to, 100 and some acres in Richmond. All right, ma'am. Okay. This is a business show. Tell folks who you are and what you do.
My name's Angie, Kane. My husband and I are the owners of Jolly's Mill Pond in Williamsburg, Virginia. It's a 150-acre historic farm. And we are we're putting a 2-acre plot into production with chickens and specialty crops, etc. And it is the reason why we left Brooklyn 12 years ago. It's because there was no way for us to manage this entity remotely. We had to move down here with our 2 kids.
So how do you find that patch of land? So your husband's from Richmond, mm-hmm. You're from Brooklyn, mm-hmm. Met here. How do you find that patch of land out there?
Well, it's been in the family now for 3 generations.
Oh.
And so my husband grew up tromping through the woods, swinging on vines, etc. And he only knew the property in a certain context. It was a playground. And then it was only much later on when there were very severe challenges on the property that he started to learn about the property's history, the property's Black history.
And so that's where we are today. So let's talk about, from a business standpoint, mm-hmm. You go there, explain to our listeners how you take farmland, land like that, and really make a living off of it and turn it into something that's financially viable.
Well, we're still in that process.
That's a work in progress.
And so it's a work in progress. One of the things that we had to look at, like while we were still in Brooklyn, was how do we protect the character of the land, but still make it pay for itself. We're conservationists. We don't need every blade of grass to stay the way it was for the past 300 years. The property has to be self-sustaining. So when we got down here, we were dealing with a million challenges. One of the things I looked into was, where does this model exist somewhere else where people may be land rich, but their pockets aren't quite as deep? And then I realized that happened with the landed gentry in Europe. You could have the Earl of Nothing, who actually works at the post office, but inherited 1,000 acres that had been in his family since the 13th century. And so I started to take deep dives into how was it that normal people were able to make these properties self-sustaining even when they had a lot to manage, and they were expensive to manage. So there was a model that I call the 4 legs of the stool. They would do things like small-scale agriculture, events, accommodations, lodging, and in the 20th and 21st centuries, e-commerce.
Okay, and how can people, so people are tuning in, how can they find out information about the farm?
Okay, we're at jolliesmillpond.com, JOLLYSMILLPOND.com. We're also Jolly's Mill Pond on Instagram and Facebook.
Alrighty, so let's go back and talk about the historic aspect of it.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So when we moved down here, my husband's white. He's extraordinarily white.
He's a regular white man.
He is a very white man.
Okay.
And so when we moved down, I said, oh my goodness, I'm the first black owner of the pond. And I tell this joke all the time, and he's like, oh my goodness, no, you're not. Because in the late 1800s, a man named Jeremiah Wallace was the first black owner of the property. And with some other research that my husband had to do, he kept finding his name in different real estate transactions in the 1800s. And so then we're scratching our heads like, who was this guy? There's a street in Williamsburg named after him. Why? When he owned the property, he was in his late 20s. So it's like, what was this guy about that this was happening? So he became something of an object of obsession for us. And what we found through research that my father-in-law was involved with is that he was involved with the family that the pond is originally named after, and was involved in several real estate transactions. And he was part of a family, a long line, black family in that area that was semi-comfortable. I mean, comfortable is relative.
Yeah.
But they did know more about real estate. In that neck of the woods in Williamsburg, well, James City County, Williamsburg, there were farmers, there were as many black farmers as there were white farmers. And his family, some of his family ties were as wealthy as a middle-class white family, which was, something.
For the time.
For the time. So I started to dive deeper into the history because one of the challenges the biggest challenge that we have is that the pond is a 50-acre pond impounded by an earthen dam. And the Department of Dam Safety is mandating that we bring that into compliance. This is not the Hoover Dam, it's a low-hazard dam. The cost for doing that originally was $3 million.
Okay.
And we do not have that in the couch cushions.
Not sitting there waiting.
No. And so anyhow, and then there was some real pressure put on us to bring it into compliance. There was a public road, like a country road, that went over the top of the dam. So we had to have that road closed. And people were not happy about that. But it brought the costs of compliance down to about $750,000, which is, again, in the couch cushions. So a lot of people in our situation would have just breached the dam because of the cost, etc. And so, but we are thick-skulled and slightly crazy enough to be the ones to say we need to protect this pond. There's a history here that's largely unknown. We are part of a larger narrative, a Black history narrative in that area that most people don't know about. So we have been working to, one, preserve the dam, and two, tell the story about why people like us are the ones to take this challenge on to protect this. We're doing it because of the history. We're doing it because of conservation. We're doing it because of the legacy. And so we are, so what I'm doing as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, is that I'm producing a docuseries addressing all of these different facets of the property and why we are so driven to protect it and conserve it. And hopefully in the course of doing this, serve as a model for other small family farms that end up having some of these same bureaucratic challenges.
Alrighty, how can people find you out there?
Okay, you can log on to our website, jolliesmillpond.com. You can email us at visit@jolliesmillpond.com. And we're getting ready to launch our booking platform because we give history tours. They're usually about 2 hours long. We've had people from all over, actresses, Black history writers, etc., who come to our property because it has a different narrative than what most people expect coming out of Williamsburg and the history of early Virginia.
One of the things, so when I was a kid, so coming from Philly, my uncle was stationed in the Air Force, and we used to go to Colonial in Williamsburg. And it was funny when you look at that now and say, how they're telling that story, there's black people, white people, and that aspect of the story. Let's touch on some. For every movement, there are people who are not looking like the ones who are in the movement. So your husband is a white man who understands his part in history and the history that he's standing on.
Absolutely.
So in every movement, there's always some of them people. There has to be some of them who get it. Because all of a sudden now you're taking on, we could have breached it, but there's history here.
Yes.
And he gets it. So you don't have to go and try and convince him.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Because he gets so touched on that sometimes because a lot of times I don't think we give, just due to the folks who are not standing in the movement, but also helping the movement go along.
Absolutely. Now, in his case, and I always joke that my husband's very white. In most cases, people would never put us together if we're standing side by side. He is passionate about that environment, and we all are history lovers. And there's so much detective work that's gone into the discoveries that have been made so far that get us all excited. And he's excited that not only is this part of his legacy, we sit smack dab in the middle of old line white families who've been in that area for hundreds of years, and an old line black family that my husband grew up with, and they've been in that area for hundreds of years. And so he pointed that out to me one day. I was like, I didn't even notice.
We had that conversation about history, being from New York and being from Philly. We have a different concept of history.
I think so.
It's definite.
History isn't heritage for us.
No.
It's like heritage for a lot of Southerners. And coming from New York, Black History Month, same 8 black people, the only people
exactly.
Who did
those are the same ones in Philly.
And then also, we were all enslaved until the Civil War.
Yeah.
So our friend who grew up in that area on the other side of the pond used to say, my family was never enslaved. I was like, come on, Charles. We were all enslaved. He's like, no, my family wasn't enslaved. In the research that I've been doing, there are old line black families that can trace their ancestors back to the first ones that came in the 1600s from the West Indies as indentured servants. Now, not saying their lot in life was that much better.
But there's a difference between indentured servants and slaves.
Yes,
there definitely is.
So the fact of the matter is, there was another context to history than what a lot of us grew up with. And so for me to be in the position where we can start sharing that context and we're making discoveries, it's absolutely a privilege.
Okay, so now that's from the personal side. As a filmmaker, you're looking at this going, man, this is, okay, now there's a story. If you're a storyteller, this is hitting it out the park.
Okay, case in point. We had spent dozens of hours trying to research the first black owner of our property. He was a man of mystery. And we were rushing to go somewhere. And of course, I decided to check email. My husband's like, why are you checking email right now? We've got to go. I got an email from his great-granddaughter. She was like, is this the same Jolly's Mill Pond? And then she started describing it. And I was like, oh my goodness.
This is it.
And so then within a few days, we sat down and we had a Zoom, and she was able to fill in pieces of his story that we have been researching for like years.
So you could have went to the census, didn't work. You could have went to all these deeds and all that. You go to the source.
Yes, and so we were able to plug in certain holes too.
But she had.
But she was there with her mother, his granddaughter, and when he died in Richmond. He broke his back and he was hospitalized at a black children's hospital. It was a hospital for disabled black children on basically in the location of VCU, current day VCU. And after a month, he died from his injuries. So we found his death certificate. Thank you, Ancestry.com. We found his death certificate. We found different pieces of census data, but we still couldn't figure out a bunch of things. So then they were able to share with us. He went to Hampton. He taught. And there's some record in that period of time where he said he wanted to buy some land in Virginia. And so as a storyteller, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So it's amazing, and it's also daunting because this isn't, I mean, we were very fortunate with Herd that we were able to produce it in the period of time that we did. I may have gotten a little cocky, and I may have thought that, yeah, I can knock this out in a year. There's no way on
You were
earth.
knocking that out. All right,
Yeah.
so let's talk on Herd.
Okay.
Emmy winning.
Mhm.
So I meet David Powers, and just like the people are like, you got to meet this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys come to the and tell the story. Okay, I'm not even gonna steal your thunder. Tell the story you heard. Then we're gonna start talking about what the impact that it had. Okay, there you go.
Okay, so I've known David for now several years, and he approached me one day and he said, I want to do a documentary about Richmond's housing projects. Knowing David, he is very much a Southern gentleman.
Yes, he is.
I knew he would only work on certain types of projects, but I was also slightly skeptical because I didn't want this to be a story that was like a bleeding heart story, or I didn't want it to be patronizing, etc., and that wasn't his interest at all. And so we started as a very scrappy team, and it took us months and months to find people who would be willing to share their story with us because people had been burned, and they were right to be skeptical. And it took a while for us to find the people who would be, I mean, you're asking people to open up the rawness of their lives and have it on screen and trust you that you're not going to do something that's exploitive or anything like that. So I was absolutely on board, but I didn't grow up in the projects. My mom was a nurse, my dad was a cop, grew up in a very working class family. And so I didn't have that as part of my experience. So I had to educate myself about what was happening in Richmond's housing projects. And a very clear distinction that was made very early on was that we weren't telling people stories. We were going to share their stories. They were going to tell their own stories.
And they told some stories.
And they told some
It
stories.
was raw. It was intentional. It was excellent. So there were stars who came out of that as well, and you guys started winning awards.
Yes. We were very fortunate. We won an Emmy in a very competitive category for our documentary, and that was fantastic. But more than that, the real reward, as I mentioned to you before, was being able to sit there with our storytellers. And I was sitting behind TJ Thompson.
Shout out to TJ.
Who is not a small dude.
No, he's a big guy.
He's a big
no
dude.
free lunch. Shout out to him with free lunch with his merchandise.
Yes,
there.
yes. Yeah, shout out to free lunch. So TJ's sitting there with his daughter, Tori. And I'm watching his reactions when he sees his mom on screen. And he gets emotional. And I'm watching this, and I see this little girl at this point. She's like sprawled over his lap. I was like, she doesn't understand what is happening here, the impact of this, and the emotion. I could not stop crying. I was like, I cannot believe I've had the opportunity to do work like this. And universally, they loved it.
They did. So when David and Martin came the last time, they came, I don't remember this time or the time before, and they talked about that screening. They said they were concerned. They were worried.
Yeah.
They were worried about how, and they said when they got through it, they knew that they had.
Yeah.
They knew they had hit it.
It was beautiful.
Alrighty.
Really
All right. So shout out to the good friends. You guys did the amazing work at Herd. So now one of the things when people come into the studio is they come in bearing gifts because we talked about. You know, the financial side of, and so you guys are let's talk about that. So you guys go to farmers markets. What do you raise on? Okay, so you say you got, what is it, 1 or 2 turkeys?
We've got 2 turkeys now. More to come, but we've got about 100-something chickens right now.
Okay, let me ask you this. So now, a friend of mine, they own a farm in Brunswick, and I went there expecting what I thought a farm would look like.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see rows of anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just seen chickens just like walking around like, yo, they was.
Yeah, free range. Now we do have free range chickens, but there are a lot of predators there. What we have learned in this process, in our journey, is that you can't do it by yourself. So we have a farmer that we're partnering with who does the management of our
Somebody who is a
seasoned
farmer,
organic farmer, etc. And we now are also working on developing products, etc. So we have a farm. We're getting into production. We're still semi off grid, and so we've got a rain catchment system, etc. It's kind of bonkers, but farms are very expensive to sustain and to develop. So what we wanted to do, because of the property's history, because of our focus on conservation, and the fact that we're foodies, I wanted to create products that tip their hat to history, to nostalgia, to classics, etc. And I also wanted to be able to leverage our seasonal ingredients once everything was in production. And that's where the pies come in.
Okay, man, when you say production,
Mm-hmm.
what do you guys grow out there?
Okay, so right now we have cool like early season crops, collards, kale, Brussels sprouts, etc. Because we've just recently made this move with the chickens, everything else really had to stop until the chickens were secure on site.
Okay, so when you say that you got chickens, the chickens just like walking around.
No, they're free range, but they have to have netting, etc., to protect them from predators.
Birds, so other ones coming in,
Yes,
or just ones on the ground?
We've got predators on the ground. We've got snakes, raccoons, groundhogs, etc. In the air, we've got hawks, bald eagle, vultures. We've got all sorts of things that may be coming after them.
After your chickens. Okay.
After our chickens.
How do you get the turkeys? Like, you just went in there, you said, we need some turkeys?
Well, now this started with our farm partner, Justin. He wanted to start a turkey program in time for Thanksgiving. And so he got
I got a couple of turkeys.
Yes, so then went
So
out
those couple of turkeys are going to give us more turkeys.
Yes, they will.
Okay, so, ma'am, I did a show a while back.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had some farmers from Brunswick,
Mm-hmm.
some restaurateurs, and one farmer, a guy down in Brunswick, says, I just want people to know there are no nuggets on a chicken. I said to him, sir, stop that. Stop. You are not going to be on here issuing false claims. My grandson is a chicken nugget expert, and he knows there's nuggets.
Chicken, yes.
So he's like, no, I can't break it to him because he's 5. Because he says, so I take them out there to the farm, and they look, and it's like, okay. For an adult, it's the same thing for people who don't operate on the farm. So your guy wants to start a turkey program.
Mm-hmm.
How long? Okay, so how long ago do you have 2 turkeys now?
We have 2 turkeys.
Okay, ma'am. How long does it take, to get some more turkeys?
Well, there's a learning curve.
There's a learning curve.
There is a learning curve.
I just, one of the great parts about having your own show is we got to learn.
Yeah. So there's a learning curve, and the emphasis has really been on the chickens. Because especially within this past year, people have been very focused on buying free-range eggs, their high-quality eggs, etc. The turkey program is in progress. So with the hopes that by Thanksgiving, we'll have a full-fledged program, and we can keep building from there. Okay. But basically we've been merging operations. So
okay. I was just wondering.
Oh yeah, I hear you.
So, are all of your Organic?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know exactly what that means, but
Okay, so the thing is, we don't use, chemical pesticides or
gotcha.
anything
Okay.
like that on anything that we're doing. We don't use chemical fertilizers. I mean, people make organic like nice and exotic
Yes.
now, but that's traditionally the way people had to grow. Um, it's it's something that can work very well when you have a variety of crops and you're not just growing 200 acres of corn or soybeans or anything like that. And it is the first time that farming has been on site in 100 years on our
Okay.
property.
So now you brought some delicacies.
Yes, and
Okay. So you got a little box, and we're gonna start with the little box.
okay, the little box.
Okay, hold on. Let me take a look.
Okay.
That looks like a lemon meringue pie.
No, it isn't. It's a sweet potato pie with a meringue topping. And it's our mini sweet potato pie made with local sweet potatoes. We ran out of the ones that we had grown, but we still use local sweet potatoes.
Sweet potato with what's meringue? So I know it as a lemon meringue pie because I kind of like it. And so okay. So it's sweet potato under here.
Yes.
And the white stuff on top. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, it is meringue.
Yes.
What exactly is meringue?
It's whipped egg whites.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
And they're made with our free range eggs.
Gotcha.
So we have the sweet potato pie.
So let me ask you. Okay,
Sure.
you're rolling through there. Clearly, you did this in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
for
all
sure.
the time. Yeah,
absolutely.
All the time. Okay, man. Where do you learn how to do stuff like this?
Okay, so and this is all part of our team. I do not bake our pies.
Okay.
We have our chief baker, Joan, who doesn't like to get attention.
This is just
Joan's
Joan's
creation.
baby. All right, Joan.
Joan did.
There you go.
There you go. And so we collaborated, and I wanted to start working on seasonal classic pies. And so we came up with a few. Worked through certain recipes, and I said, okay, this one, and this one. So we have sweet potato pie. We also but we've sold out of our strawberry crumble. Joan went to a strawberry field, picked the strawberries that then went into the crumble. Just classic goodness.
Okay. So who in your house is the tester?
We are all testers,
You're all the
unfortunately.
Testers? Okay.
So,
all with the tester, because a lot of times with them, I'm not in the baking world, so
Mhm.
I just got like this with regular food and some candy. Most of the time, a person would look at that and think it's a lemon meringue pie.
Mhm.
They would. And so this is regular sweet potato.
Sweet potato with a
Okay.
meringue topping
That's pretty cool.
and all butter crust. So we had a long debate about shortening crust versus butter. We have a butter crust.
Okay, there we go. Alrighty, thank
Okay.
you.
And then
This is big.
because we were focusing on classic nostalgic pies, this is a French silk pie. And so it has like basically let's see.
We're gonna try and see. Let's see if we can.
do this.
Okay, a French silk pie.
Yes. So it has like a thick, like almost a chocolate mousse made with dark chocolate, whipped topping with the chocolate shavings. It is decadent. I'm a chocoholic, and in my world, there's no such thing as too much chocolate. This is fantastic.
Right. Okay. So how long? So one of the things I learned from other friends is they said we didn't run out, we sold out,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys go to the markets,
We had our first pop-up market this past weekend.
and that was at the Greek festival.
Actually, it was near the Greek festival in our backyard. Actually.
Okay. How did sales go?
Sales went really well because we were selling a bunch of different things, including our farm partners, spices, stuff that he's cultivated, etc. Sold out on the spices. We had a couple of things left. We had a bunch of minis sold out on a bunch of those, with the exception of these little guys. So it went really well.
Okay, sweet potato meringue and
French
French silk.
hmm
French silk. Okay, and where do you foresee you guys are gonna be? Hey, Sky, how you doing? Hey, Sky, you really need to go ahead and these. I'm gonna tear them up, but my grandkids are gonna be down with these as well. Uh, where can people get these upcoming?
You can order them on our website, jolliesmillpond.com. We have a link to our bakery, and you can place your orders there. We do deliveries in Richmond and in Williamsburg every week. And when we're about to schedule our next pop up. And that's probably going to be in mid to late July. So we'll be posting and promoting more about the pop up.
Do you know where that's going to be?
Chances are it's going to be in Richmond. So we're still working out those details.
I might have a place.
You might have a place?
I might have a place.
You might know a guy?
I'm from Philly. Brooklyn is a place where I know a guy too, but Philly is definitely a place. Hey, we are here. Congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
Let's stay connected and tell us about the story of the land. Like I said, it's interesting, it's fascinating. The food part, we always talk about the business of how,
Yes.
Like you said, when you come, how do you make a documentary? You guys had to secure funding and do all those things. That's the end product is what people see.
Yes.
It's all of the things, like you said, as a filmmaker, you're like, you can go here, and there,
Mm-hmm.
but boy, when the person comes in and fills in the dots, you're like, man.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for a lot of people. They have fantasies of what it's like to own property and run a farm, etc. And you'll see these aspirational images.
And in reality,
the reality is very different. And so what we are trying to do is become a model for how the average person can make their farm profitable but still maintain its character. At this point, something like only 4% of the farmers in Virginia are black. Down from when, black and white farmers were equal in population. So with all of the challenges that we face with, the dam, and then, some neighbors that weren't exactly welcoming, etc., we want to be able to show people that there is a success story on the other side of this. So we absolutely appreciate people supporting our scrappy growing operation and stuffing themselves with pies. But we also have history tours, etc. We are also going to be launching farm to table experiences as we can see what the critters will allow us to actually produce. So we've got quite a few things going on, but it's a blessing to be in this arena.
A lot of times when you talk about owning land, you really don't think about all those things that go with it.
Sure.
That there's money in land, there's money in all those things, but man, there's a lot of things. Whether it is sometimes people are not welcoming, sometimes it's the animals who are out there.
Yes.
There's a lot of things working, so you have to try and figure out how to turn that thing into a profit.
And then protects the character of the land.
And that can get away.
Yes.
That can get away in a minute.
Yes. And so for us, if we weren't interested in protecting the character of the land, we could have done all kinds of different things. But we're also bringing this land kicking and screaming into the 21st century, bringing in water, bringing in running water, bringing in all of these different utilities, etc., things that have never been in place there.
Here's another one. How's the internet access out there?
We do have high-speed internet, so we've got decent Wi-Fi and everything.
Because that, when I work with the friends over near Brunswick, and they talk about across the country, there are high-speed internet deserts where people can't get.
That's where we have an advantage because we're so close to suburban development, the city of Williamsburg, etc. We've been able to have high-speed internet from the time we moved down from New York. So
There you go. One last time, how can people find you out there?
Okay, go to our website, jolliesmillpond.com. We are where history meets the outdoors. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at Jollies Mill Pond, and email us at visit@jolliesmillpond.com.
All righty. On the mic with Mike. Hey, Sky, I hope you're feeling better. Keep your head up out there. We'll talk to you soon. This is what we do. We bring out the best and the brightest. We talk to game changers out there who are doing some amazing things. Make sure you go check her out. She's going to come back because, this little bit of time don't do you justice. No, it's been, I don't know, 5 years, 4 years ago?
Something like that.
Something, you lose time, and a lot has happened, so make sure you go get the pies. Their work is I'm going to tear them up. All right, so we got to go. On the mic with Mike, as I always say, please make sure you take care of our sponsors and advertisers because the microphone ain't free and my grandkids need stuff.
Mike with Mike, from Michael Mike, from the Michael Mike, Michael Mike. My name is Isabella and you're listening to Mike King Biz. Hubby, that's my scam.
I enjoy listening to On the Mic with Mike every day. That's what I do.
There you go. On the mic with Mike. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Now, take care.